Okay, so welcome back. We are going to do a import export of models from Maya into Substance Painter. So um, here you can see I've got a simple high poly sci-fi crate kind of thing going on. Um, Multiple materials assigned to different sections of it. Um, so just um, select faces and assign a material to that face, and that'll help us to generate a ID map from this high poly. Now, the high poly object has 236,000 faces, so that's not going to be great for running in a game engine or whatever. So I made a low poly which has 728. So that's much more efficient. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this unwrapped low poly and we are going to bake all the details from the high poly, including the ID map information, and we're going to bake all the high poly detail, the ID map, onto the low poly. So select your high poly, and we're going to go in here and go to export selection. I'm going to name it sci-fi cube high, export it as an FBX out to my desktop. So right there, FBX, name it, export, and there we go. And then I'm going to grab my low poly and I'm going to export the selection as sci-fi cube low, FBX. And then that takes care of the export. So now we're going to import it into Substance Painter and do basic project setup. So the first thing you're going to do is go to File New. Make sure it's on PBR Metallic Roughness um, unless you're using something that has an opacity map, then use the alpha test. So in this case, I do want to have some opacity maps on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and even if you're not using opacity maps, you can use this one. So alpha test or PBR metallic roughness, either way. Don't worry about these. Make sure that's on 4096. And we're going to select our low poly file. So here's my FBX. And I'm going to hit open. And that's it. So that's going to open this up. And it is going to look very low poly and very squishy. So once that's in, we can go over here to texture set settings and bake mesh maps. Now, if you only have a low poly and that's the only model that you have, then you can just use low poly mesh as high poly mesh and bake your maps. And you're going to get a set of support maps like ambient occlusion and that kind of stuff that you can use with your low poly. Okay, so you're not going to get any high poly normal map information because, well, you don't have a high poly. But all of these extra mesh maps will help with generators later on. So I do have a high poly, so I want to use that. So I'm going to go to Bake Mesh Maps, make sure this is set to 4096. I'm going to untick that. I'm I'm going to go here and I'm going to grab the FBX of the high poly, hit open, and sometimes you might have to adjust this frontal and rear distance, but I know this mesh actually works the way it is. And we will go to, because we have an ID map, we want to set up the ID map not for vertex color, but for material color. And then we can bake that. And the more detailed your model, the longer it'll take to bake, but that's okay. So now this will look just like the high poly that I had before, but nice crispy edges, nice bevels, 233,000 polygons worth of model, but on 780 faces, something like that. So, yeah. So we can actually look at the normal map here, and you can see it picked up a lot of awesome detail in there. Okay. And we've also got the ID map, which will help when assigning materials. So that is the export from Maya and the import and basic project setup in Substance. We'll see you in the next part.